I think we're live. Says we're live. I'm not seeing it on
All right.
the stream itself. Howdy, Mr. Max.
Here we are. What's going on, Max?
All right, good. We're live. Can you guys hear us?
We're live. That's right. Boomers indeed. I'm in my old man outfit right now.
That's true, yeah.
My cardigan. All I need is my recliner in the background there. Supposed to get warmer though. That's
Can't hear us. God damn it.
minutes.
Son of a bitch.
Damn.
Is he trolling us? Let me see.
I can hear it on my end.
Okay, yeah, I can hear it. God damn it, dude. Had me going.
Awesome. How's it going, man?
Oh, good. I'm glad to be off work.
Same.
Every day's a long day,
Same.
so it's not nothing new.
That it is. That it is. Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. But, yeah, we got a lot of trolls. That's right.
We have a fine appreciation for trolls, though, so that's okay.
Of course. Yes. Very much appreciate your Twitter feed there.
Oh yeah,
Big time.
we got to get you logged in on the Twitter too.
That's
right
right.
now the Twitter is just me. We're still, like we said last time, working out admin stuff and
Yeah.
getting logins.
How to
But
give both of us access to
yeah,
everything.
we are on Spotify. I did all the stuff for Amazon and Apple and Google and Stitcher and all that shit, and then I didn't check to see if if it's working yet. So maybe we're on those platforms. I don't know.
I did see it. I checked it. I gave the link, the Spotify link, to a buddy of mine, so he was able to find it. I was able to find it, so
Yeah,
hopefully all is well. But
yeah.
all bumps in the road to get the engine flowing, get it moving, steady and easy path.
Yeah, we're getting there. I mean, we're website's gonna go, start soon. It'll soon redirect to the YouTube channel first. Still haven't taken care of that. I do deal with enough web stuff at work every day. But yeah, I mean, the last week or so has been pretty cool. Again, got a whole bunch of new subscribers. Red
Yeah,
Room
definitely.
followed us on Twitter and blasted out our
Yeah.
stuff today. So that was really cool. For those of you who
Yeah,
maybe
great guys
don't
over
know, yeah, Red Room.
Great
They're
product.
another David Lynch-inspired gaming company name, and they make some pretty cool products. They got canceled by Drive-Thru RPG for their
Yeah.
game called Men, which is hilarious, and it's a damn
Yes.
shame that they got that they got pulled from that platform.
Yeah, just goes to show. But they do have I think they have an alternative to get their products.
Mr. Max is not allowed on Twitter, even with the amnesty. They said no. Power level is too high.
Truly. Yes. The sign of a based individual,
Yeah.
most assuredly. Yeah, and speaking of not based, we went in quite heavily on a certain individual.
We did. We did.
We did.
And he was not very pleased.
No, did not mention us by name, but very clear.
Yeah, very clear he was
Clear
talking
the frustration.
about some of the ideas we broached in the last episode.
Although not really, funnily enough.
Oh, well,
not
that's the
any-
thing, not
and
really.
not any of the ideas.
Not
were,
any of the ideas.
or the
That's
contentions
the,
we
or
brought
the
up at all.
arguments, yeah.
Yeah.
He got very mad at the kind of petty, low insults we made, which I guess is kind of fair, but at the same time, he took no... there was no reaction to any of the actual
No ownership
content.
of the own terrible,
that
terrible
like the
ideas.
99% of what that video was, none of it was addressed, which is not shocking. But again, that's the...
Not shocking.
Didn't really expect to get involved in a conversation with him. It was more of an examination of some very crazy, illogical ideas.
To say the least. So, But it had to be done. It had to be done.
Yeah.
You know, these ideas are atrocious on all levels, certainly for the hobby and more broadly speaking. So
Yeah.
you know, we're gonna circle back to you know, more role play, immersive style stuff, but this counter narrative, you know, really has to be pushed back unabashedly.
Oh yeah.
Against, and that will happen again in the future, because the tide has not yet ebbed, but God willing.
Yeah, and I'm pretty excited for the next episode. We've got something a little special right at the very beginning of the episode, which I'm pretty happy with. Turned out better than I anticipated it would.
Guest public service announcement.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, speaking of ideas in RPGs, I got onto RPG Pundits channel, which you had put me onto, Nick, and I'd seen his stuff every once in a while, but you know, I never really got into it. But very interesting channel, and started kind of diving a little deeper into OSR material, and then the YouTube algorithm has been serving me up lots and lots of OSR content, so that's been really, really cool.
Yeah, which goes to show your contention in our first episode, that the algorithm does not actually want to stop you.
Right. Outside of like certain very like specific verboten topics and things that you can say, I think the YouTube algorithm's actually like really, really good at showing you what you want to see. Hey, Bill M, welcome. 28mm RPG. What is up?
Yeah. Nice channel as well on your part, man. Good stuff, good videos. Always nice to see similar minds like mine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is a lot. I think you and I have been talking consistently most of the week. A lot of, like you said, RPG pundits videos. A couple in particular. I as well. You know, I had bought his Invisible College RPG maybe a year and a half ago, and I'd started browsing through it, but you know, very shortly after I began my move, or getting the process there, and getting a whole ordeal of stuff back in New Jersey, but definitely your interest and impetus in looking at Lion and Dragon is making me take a look at that. I gesture behind me as if anybody can see it. The bookshelf is behind me with that. So a lot of interesting ideas. I've been re-listening to a lot of episodes of Runeslinger's podcast. He has obviously he has his YouTube channel, and he has his Casting Shadows podcast as well. Super smart, insightful guy. I would love to talk to him at some point. You know, super thoughtful individual. Run a lot of different games. Some I had never heard of. Many I'd never heard of until he had brought them up in an episode or a YouTube video or what have you. Many I still have not had an opportunity to play or to run. But lots of food for thought.
Yeah.
Right on, man.
So I actually didn't know this until about 5 minutes before this episode, but RPG Pundit actually was a consultant on 5e.
Yep.
Helped develop that, which I found was pretty interesting. The reason that came up is that a lot of the kind of recent conversation on YouTube has been about character death and lethality, and how 5th edition, you know, is very, you know, it's like wearing kid gloves the entire time. Like it's very hard to die. Which is kind of surprising to me.
Although I have managed it twice.
Well, that's the thing, is I don't think what I think I remember when I read the player's handbook, that like optionally, if you hit 0 hit points, you're dead. Like or if
right.
or if a certain amount of damage is done past 0 in one hit, you're dead, but I think that a lot of people play with this whole like 3 death savings throws and all of this nonsense. I mean, I guess it's not nonsense, but whatever, play however you want, but to me, not having lethality. Don't. Play however you want, but not really.
Play how we want.
Yeah.
It's a philosophy more than, they could have in the sidebar, but it speaks to what would you say, a tone and a philosophy.
Oh, they removed his name from the new printing? That's not surprising, but that's petty.
Does not surprise me at all. Yeah. Yep.
Can't have any wrong think. That's ridiculous because I'm sure they didn't take out anything that he wrote, but they took his name off of it. I'm sure they didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All the work, none of the credit. But
right.
Yeah, he's mentioned that several times when it has been pertinent in his several of his videos that he was involved in some capacity. I'm not sure. I don't. It's hard to suss out what consulting means.
Right.
But I'm sure it was not trivial.
Yeah. I mean, why would you bring him on if you were going to if you didn't want actual input? I mean, he's got actual ideas and, I just on a whim decided to buy Lion and Dragon last night. Because I've been searching for a D&D game. We were considering going back to like 2nd edition because that was what I originally started with. Because I want to run a game soon, and looking through all of the old settings available for it, I could not find one that really appealed to me, and I didn't want to do a homebrew thing because that was going to be a lot of work and a big rabbit hole I didn't want to go down. And so I was getting a little frustrated. And I think what happened, the way it came up was that a video about Dark Albion came up in my feed, and I got really interested in that very quickly. And so just went and bought Lion and Dragon last night and started reading the PDF. And I was like, this is exactly what I've been looking for. I was like, I want something that's more low fantasy, low magic, is more lethal. And the art in that book is awesome. And I guess most of it's like pulled from public domain. Like very famous artists from, the 18th and 19th century. And it's all great. Like it all thematically fits perfectly with actual medieval Britain. And the idea of Britain being Britain as the people of the time thought the world might work, and like drawing on all that folklore. I was like, this is so cool. This is so cool. I was a little disappointed though that he renamed the Catholic Church. I know why he did it. Like he mentioned in one of the videos that it was like, I had to do it just because people will have a, knee-jerk reaction against Catholicism no matter what. So to avoid that, renamed it the Church of the Unconquered Sun and renamed Jesus to something else. And otherwise, it's the church.
Right. That's definitely something I've been thinking about for a while, maybe a year and a half, broadly speaking. How to capture
it is like the Stalin picture, removing him from the book. Sorry.
Yeah, no, definitely. And also, Castles and Crusades is great. Something I need to dive.
Yeah, I was looking at that too. Like I loved the cover art, like the kind of homage they were doing to the old first edition covers. I was like, this is so cool. Like I'm really, really digging the stuff that I'm seeing out of the OSR right now. Even if I'm not sure I'm totally on board with all of the ideas about how games are run. I'm going to give it a shot because I haven't done something like that. Like I haven't used a random encounter in, more than 20 years. So I'm intrigued again to actually give it a shot. People are making pretty compelling cases for having kind of a systems driven game, rather than simply character and narrative. all character narrative comes out of that. I understand that's all part of it, but it's different philosophies in how you achieve that, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely worth diving into. I think, we were discussing briefly, we were texting, our styles and our tendencies are very, very similar. And that's sort of what I've led with, kind of improvisation, let the theme, let the moment speak for itself. Mm-hmm. I'm very much, it's funny. There was I don't know who did it. There was one of these Twitter multiple choice questions, what's the role mm-hmm. of the GM? And I found myself not,
none of the above,
identifying with any of, none of the above. I see the role of the GM. My responsibility is, when I'm in that role, to cultivate and curate the world, the setting, the context in which action is being is taking place on behalf of the players and the NPCs as well. That's where my main focus is. I want to sell for the world. I mm-hmm. want the world to be as, realistic, or at least, follow its own logic as consistently as possible.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting. I'm also curious to maybe, I don't know if it's the right way of conceptualizing it, but giving up some of the reins to, charts, tables, procedural mm-hmm. Mechanics, which, like you were saying, Matt, I basically, I didn't pay any attention to those for basically the entirety of my time gaming. Yeah. I thought, well, I don't need that, or that's a crutch. That's sort of how I visualize it. That's a crutch for people who don't have imagination.
That's how I've.
And
kind
I'm
of
sure there's something to be
too.
said for that, but there also might be something that I'm missing.
Well, that's something I was thinking about recently, and Big Bad RPG. We'll answer your question in just a minute. A lot of what's been described by Pundit and by a couple of other channels I've been watching with regard to like random encounters and these system-driven things. When they're describing this, it sounds very, very interesting to me. And then on the flip side, like in one of the videos that Pundit was, he was talking about the kind of new school GMing style, right, where it is this narrative and like you're trying to build and tell a story. The way he was describing that, I was like, that's just a really shitty DM or like shitty GM. Right. The way in which a game is run as he was describing it. And so by the same token, I think my kind of biases against the old way of doing it came out of being in games with really bad GMs. It was like,
an all too common problem.
Yeah, you can take any style of gameplay, and if you give it to someone who's going to run it poorly, the game's going to suck. Like there's not there's not an inherent, I don't know, like betterness to one way or the other that can't that is going to not be destroyed by a good GM or by a bad GM.
Right. No mechanics, no matter how well written or how well implemented, can survive, a trash group.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, and it's not just a GM; it's the other trash players as well. Yeah. And so let's see what Big Bad asks, what tabletop RPGs do you guys run, or what's your favorite? So I feel like I'm kind of like in this kind of limbo in terms of what kind of generation I came from in gaming. Like I said, I came from started with second edition AD&D, played that basically through a little bit of the first part of the third edition wave. I never played third edition. And then when I got into high school, I really got sucked into the White Wolf games, like Vampire the Masquerade, World of Darkness, the new World of Darkness games. And that's where I got really addicted to the kind of narrative, immersive like storytelling style, because that's not a game. I don't think that that's a game where random encounters make any sense at all. Like that would be, it's like that would be kind of, and this is something you and I have talked about, where the mechanics of a game really, really do matter. Even though like we have a preference for simpler mechanics, the mechanics themselves do shape the kind of entire experience of the game. They're the skeleton on which everything, the meat kind of hangs. And with the White Wolf games, that sort of thing, in my opinion, is like it's antithetical to the genre and the atmosphere. I really liked horror games a lot. I played a lot of Exalted as well, which is more like kind of a bizarre epic fantasy game. Played in a very bad Pathfinder game, which I was part of making it bad. We can tell some horror stories about that stuff. And then within the last decade or so, I spent most of my time playing Stalker RPG and Within the Ring of Fire, which is an indie game that a friend of ours made. That's very cool, but I don't really recommend it to people who don't know the creator, because it's kind of difficult to. There's some big problems with the game. For if you were not already immersed in like the lead up to this game being launched, it'd be very difficult to come in and play it and not be extremely frustrated.
Yeah, and that's we've talked about it because you and I, no doubt, a lot of other people have seen Andrew Wood's channel, the Wood WWAD YouTube channel from back in the day, and yeah, I think that's a game. It's very inspiring, but I don't think there's a very short tail to that game. TAIL. If you weren't caught up in the excitement and if some of the implicit, what would you say, tone or tendency or even certain mechanical things were not imparted through the YouTube videos, they're not mentioned, and certainly not explicitly.
Right. Yeah, there's like parts of the game system that we were aware of before the game came out because it was explained in playtests and through his YouTube videos. And then when we got the books, it was like, they're not mentioned. And so it was like, if I hadn't seen your YouTube videos, I'd be like, what is this?
Yeah, definitely.
But it's an incredibly creative, super imaginative world and very bizarre, very out there.
Yeah.
And has what is one of my favorite RPG supplements ever written, 77 Thrones, the Theological Codex, which is a guide to...
That book is, Max, worth... If you are interested in or curious, I would recommend that book. That book kind of can stand on its own merits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if you never play the game or use that setting.
It's the kind of pantheon of the 77 major deities, gods, trolls, dragons, all of these immense spiritual beings for the setting, and information on their clergy, their the divine rituals and everything like that. There is some mechanical stuff in it, but mostly it's like this. It's kind of like going to Wikipedia and like looking at some pantheon of gods and like clicking on one of them,
right?
And it's got references to every other god, and you're clicking on that one. You're going down the Wikipedia rabbit hole. It kind of reads like that. You can jump around, and it takes a while for this whole picture to kind of show up, but it's super, super creative. And that was like, I remember getting that book and being like, oh shit,
that's the best in the line.
Yeah, I was like, I'm playing this game a lot now because it just gave me so many ideas. It's very, very cool.
Which I've done as well. It's definitely a contender for the number of. It's not number one, but it's definitely in the top 3 in terms of game hours, both played and run.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, well, yeah, well, it's in the top 3, but it's like my experience with like Vampire the Masquerade and Vampire the Requiem dwarfs pretty much everything else. I played a lot of that.
Genre, what's going on, man? See here. Oh, apparently the algorithm didn't
inform you. That's too bad. You
manifest.
You gotta subscribe to the bell for notifications. Let's see. Let's go back through some of these other comments. We got. Let's see. It takes some getting used to. When I played the Cypher system, I started using the cards, taking away any planning, and using the player intrusions. It's the new challenge play. So is that you're talking about kind of like a systems-driven part of the game? I'm assuming.
So Cypher system and Numenera, which was the first game I think in that that used that system that Monty Cook developed. I remember I kickstarted the Numenera book, and I was really into it for a while, but I haven't gotten a chance to use it. I didn't know they rolled out cards for it. It doesn't surprise me. That is definitely, it's interesting that you have some miles under your belt with that system. It's definitely something that intrigues me. I like the world, the ninth world of Numenera. I think I still have the Cypher system book. So the Cypher system, it uses a D20 for basically all conflict resolution. So your difficulty is a number between 1 to 10 multiplied by 5. So is that right? I think that's right. Or maybe no, it's multiplied by 3. It's been a long time, but a difficulty 1 is a 3. If it's a 3, or it's a 5 if it's multiplied by 5, whatever it is. But it's that that's a thought process behind it. And what really impressed me about that system, and what I really liked and still like about it, is the GM doesn't have to roll anything. So from my perspective, the less and I think this is another reason why I've like eschewed tables and random encounter charts, etc. My thought and feeling has always been the less mechanics I, as the GM, need to interface with, more mental bandwidth I have to focus on the players and on the world and on the scene and on the situation going on. Right. I don't want to have to dedicate a lot of CPU capacity to doing mechanics for NPCs or for condition effects, random encounters, etc.
I can see how it can help build like improvisational skills as well, because it's like if you have to look at a table real quick and now all of a sudden there's a cockatrice, or like you have to be able to, there has to be a reason as to why this is here, and you have to be able to sell this convincingly and do it very quickly. Alternatively, I think you could probably get away with rolling your random encounters before the session starts, so they're just on hand. But at the same time, it's like I'm already kind of good at doing that, like without the tables.
Because I've thought about that as well. Like, well, that defeats the purpose. That's sort of what I'm doing. This is just giving me, a smaller inventory list of things which could happen. If I'm already choosing ahead of time, it's not really random. And I'm already doing that anyway. But, again, it's something I think I need to, what would you say?
I want to give it a shot.
Give it another chance.
Yeah, it's like I've never really given it a shot. And this is actually, it was something Pundit was talking about with character creation and, rolling up a character and rolling up random little background tidbits or whatever. They're very basic, and then if you survive the first couple of sessions, this character, over time, you're filling out these details, and you're getting the experience through the world, and your character emerges out of that. And his point is if you're starting in the opposite direction and coming up with like a backstory and everything like that, you're going to be fighting against these things because you want to play your backstory out. And that was one of the things where I was like, that's just bad. That's bad players and bad GMs doing that, though, for me, because it's like the backstory for me is like it's a catalyst to it's the jumping off point to then have a dynamic character who grows and whatnot. And I like a little bit more of the, you know, the kind of I mean, I was in theater. I majored in theater. I like the theatrical nature of this whole thing. So I like having an interesting character from the start. But at the same time, like I like dynamic characters, and we said this, I think, in one of our previous episodes, where it's like your plan never survives contact with reality. Your character never survives that either, you know, like things change.
Yeah.
So I do think that there's a little bit of an aspect of this on the old school side, disparaging the newer way of doing this, and that it's like they're seeing a lot of very, very bad games. And that's true. Like they're out there and they're atrocious. But at the same time, it's like I do remember being in atrocious games that were running this other style. And for that reason, I wrote it off. And I'm not saying that there's a middle ground, you know, some like milquetoast middle ground that I'm appealing to. But I do think that there's, I think that there's merit to the style that I like. I like it for a reason.
And this, the point that he brought up in that video, in regards to character backstory and fleshing out, getting to know your character, or your character coming more alive, you know, very much so Sean and I have been guilty in my early, freshman years as, well, maybe not years, but maybe the first 18 months of gaming, first couple characters, writing a novel or a short,
I've done that too.
But and that's also, it's what would you say? It's reframing the perspective and the scope, I think, with these these OSR games, because you really are encouraged to in the new school way of gaming as a player. You have so much at the beginning, and it's kind of understood that you're starting off super strong, and you're only going to get stronger, real strong, real fast.
Quick. Yeah.
And so even though, okay, I'm playing whatever my initial backstory is for a character who's level 1, so many people are coming up with basically video game character ideas, where someone the backstory that you're getting so often, where you've done all these things in your backstory, you've accomplished all of these achievements. You're describing someone who's basically 4th, 7th, 15th level already. You know, you can't be someone who's level 1, be the head of XYZ, or a renowned warrior who's, been in all these things and done all these things, a seasoned, grizzled individual. Because it doesn't make sense. It jives with the mechanics. Well, if you're an elf who's been alive for 700 years, what have you been doing? You're only level 1, mechanically speaking. And so, the role play and the mechanics are sort of working at odds with each other. But there's first of all, you're encouraged to do that. You're in the new school, and it's not mentioned to do otherwise.
But that's also a problem with the way that people play longer lived species, is that they like, if you are like, the entire mentality of the character should be different than the human experience. If you're an adolescent and you're 150 years old, you're going to be very different than an adolescent human,
right.
So again, I think this part of that comes down to bad role playing,
bad role playing and bad writing,
Yeah.
If you're going to have,
but I agree though that, like, especially with kind of new edition,
Yeah.
like 5th edition is, I think in particular, your characters do start off like significantly more powerful than like a level 0 peasant. Like a level 1 character
Right.
is a fucking badass, basically. And
Yeah.
you do get, and the power just scales upward from there very, very quickly. And that's actually, and people tend to find, and this is not just 5th edition,
Yeah.
I think that this was previous editions as well, that the challenge really dropped off at some point, because your characters do just become so fucking powerful that unless you're throwing like the kind of end game monsters at them, they're just plowing through everything. So that is, I think that's kind of bad game design.
Yeah. Definitely
Whereas,
agree, Shauner. That is your backstory is the prologue. The
right.
And should answer why are you adventuring, doing this thing.
Right.
And I do also like the life path creation system, Max. Cyberpunk and Cyberpunk is the only one that comes to mind. Burning Wheel does it as well.
Well, Lion and Dragon sort of has something like that. Your social class
nice.
is determined like that, whether you're like a peasant or, you know, you're a priest or a knight, a lord, something like that. That's all kind of determined for you very quickly, and that gives you a jumping off point. And like you said, this is a prologue. For me, it's like, yeah, it's the reason that you are an adventurer or going out into the world. But for me, that's not even the inciting incident of the campaign. You know, the inciting incident, that's going to happen, session 1. That's
But your backstory is the inciting incident possibly for you if you're not running a game where, okay, the first 45 minutes is a slice of life and then something happens.
Yeah.
In which case, do you even need a backstory? You were
right.
a farmer. You were a cobbler's son.
And that's that's the kind of OSR take on things, I think, is that it's like, you were a farmer and you learned how to cook, something like that. And then something happens. Let's see. Helcente
very,
says,
very interesting. Yeah.
My parents' backstory still interrupts emergent storytelling. Replaces the DM in setting and exploration with the character sheet and the player's atomized pre-story. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
The question
yeah.
Mr. Max asks, the question that should be answered: why are you adventuring? Yeah, exactly. That's the purpose of the character backstory. Is it the epilogue or is it the prologue? It's the anti-log. Whatever the beginning is called.
Maybe it's the epilogue if you die immediately. I'm not opposed to.
And not only characters in 5e are much more powerful at level 1, but most begin at level 3 or 5. Wow.
Oh.
See, this is one of the reasons that I like the game Exalted, is that I played a lot of games where you start off as the weakling. It's like if you're playing in Vampire and you're essentially a starting character, you are, while you are more powerful than humans, relative to every other supernatural being in the game, you are dog meat.
Right.
Like you're it takes a while for you, and you have everything is against you. So there's this like big challenge, very much like older editions of these games where you're starting as nothing and building yourself up. Whereas Exalted, it's like you start off and you're one of the most powerful entities in the world. Like it is, and that is kind of the point, is you are starting out. It is epic fantasy. You are Gilgamesh, you are Hercules, this sort of mythical character.
Right.
But on the flip side of that, the challenge, the way the setting is constructed is that the challenges are almost insurmountable. They're essentially impossible for the world to turn out right. But that's the point of your character, is that they do the impossible, or they are capable of achieving these impossible things. And so it's very much the level of power that you wield is completely absurd, but the challenge is scaled in a way that you still, it's very easy for you to be dog meat.
Yeah, right. And I mean, this also speaks to different. It speaks to genre. So one of the people in the real life game that I play with on the weekends, he's getting ready to run a Supers game tomorrow, actually. I like Supers aesthetic. I actually really don't care for most comic books. I was into them in college, and I kind of despise them now. But I have a huge affinity for the MMO, the video game City of Heroes. I spent a shameful amount of hours in that game, and I love that world. And like, the only reason I have any care or interest in the super genre is almost entirely from that video game. So I've been thinking a lot about this. So he's going to be running this in Savage Worlds. But it occurs to me, in the super genre, for example, and this is the case with some other genres as well, you could say like a Greco-Roman myth is sort of the same way, if you can put that together as a genre. There really isn't character advancement, right? In a supers game, superheroes are pretty
static. Yeah.
After they get their powers, that's Spider-Man doesn't level up. Batman doesn't level up.
Yeah.
Daredevil doesn't level up,
yeah.
or Superman. So you go from as powerful as Superman to as street level as Daredevil or John Constantine or something. They're pretty fixed, and character advancement is sort of one of the few things which are basically constant in all role-playing game systems. So I've been thinking a lot about how, is there anything that really does a supers genre well, or a mythology-inspired game very well, or even a longer-term pulp game where, Indiana Jones or The Shadow or, I don't know, Doc Savage, they're kind of the same all the way through.
Yeah.
And the circumstances change, but they themselves do not. So that works in something that's very short term. But how best would you convert that into a longer term role-playing game campaign? And I don't know the answer to that yet, but it's something that's been on my mind.
Yeah. Mr. Max says, I don't like how people treat adventuring like if it was a Disneyland attraction, something with no risk you do for fun. I completely agree.
Yeah. It's something you do out of desperation.
Yeah.
Or
like
because you can't live a normal life.
Or ambition. And knowing that it's like you're taking on risk. And this has been the kind of recent conversation I've been seeing on YouTube is about lethality in games, and how the new school really doesn't take any risk. There's no risk for your characters. Like apparently there was a character death in Critical Role at one point, and their audience freaked out. Like people were like shrieking, like, "How could you do this?" And to me, I'm like, that's the point.
My character.
There's no reason to play the game if there's no danger, It's like if you...
Nice, 28 millimeter.
I remember a long time ago, like when I was a kid, I was playing, I think I was playing Jedi Knight, Dark Forces 2, and I had been using cheat codes.
Great game.
Yeah, great game. I'd been using the cheat codes for a long time, and then one time I turned it off, and all of a sudden the game was so exciting because I was dying. And
that's a good idea.
There was, I don't know. I mean, it's like I like the risk of, and I like usually when there are character deaths in the games that I've run or been a part of, they're the most memorable moments, because there was significant risk. Nobody knew what the outcome was going to be, and people. It's fun when characters die in stories. Like it's
sure.
it's
Yeah.
That's what drama is.
Yes, drama is stakes. Drama is it is that desperation. It's the drive to overcome adversity.
Justin Thor LP's.
Shauna, that
Sorry, just he said he's started the stream at the beginning at 2 times speed.
oh,
It's catching up.
oh, catching up fast.
Yeah.
Shauna, that's a great idea. I do love the Venture Brothers world, although I don't think I ever saw the last season of it. That is a great idea. Some great characters and setting material to draw from in that world.
28mm RPG. I just joined a new superhero group. They're anti-heroes. They call themselves the Edgelords. I don't know if you guys watched The Tick on Amazon. I was a huge fan of the cartoon growing up, The Tick. But the Amazon series, it's 2 seasons, and in the second season, there is a villain named Edgelord who wears like a trench coat. It's really funny.
I have to go back and see that. I remember I love the cartoon as well.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the previews for that on Netflix, and then for whatever reason I kind of slept on it, and I actually haven't thought about it until you mention it.
It's very funny. They get the weirdness because I think the creator was heavily involved. I was very upset when it got canceled.
Oh, nice.
Just like when the cartoon got canceled.
You want
to hear something insane? When I was a kid, my brothers and I were watching that as Saturday morning cartoons. We're watching The Tick, and my dad hated cartoons so much, always trying to make us turn them off. And finally, he came in and sat down and he watched an episode of The Tick with us, and he was laughing so hard that at the end he said, "All right, guys, new rule. This is the only cartoon you're allowed to watch on Saturdays."
Nice.
And he enforced it. And then it got canceled, so I didn't watch cartoons anymore.
Of course. Of course, that would always be the way.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Maybe supers need tragedy. Batman reluctantly resigning toward physical inadequacy while still having a legacy. The game becoming more domain I gotta make this text larger on my end. Sorry. Domain as leveling happens in reverse in some ways. Okay, let me up my text size.
Agreed. Seconded the nomination for Shauna to run a Venture Brothers game.
Yeah.
Definitely agreed. I have never seen Aeon Flux. I am aware of it, but I never watched it.
The first season was better because it was bizarre shorts, and they're basically like silent films. Not all of them, but some of them are like silent films. And then you get the second season is more structured and has story and is like episodic because they were part of. I don't remember exactly what the show was, but they were segments. The first season was segments on a different MTV show, and then it got picked up for its own show. And I didn't really like the second season very much. Yeah. T as in the monarch.
Monarch.
Yeah.
Nice. Hell yeah. Yeah, I wonder if that will ever. So I don't think that show ever got a resolution, from what I understand. I wonder if that'll ever come back at some point, or have like a fan-made movie or something, or a crowd-funded movie or something like that. But
speaking of supers,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, go ahead.
My brothers did have Mutants and Masterminds when we were growing up, and a bunch of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles supplements.
Oh, cool.
But those, I think, disappeared before I was old enough to start role-playing.
I had Mutants and Masterminds, and it was, at least at the time, this was years ago, for whatever reason, and maybe it was my own mental deficiency, or maybe it is poorly written, I don't know. I know it's popular among supers games. But the book was completely impenetrable to me, and it looked like so much work to get a character off the ground.
Did you ever see the hero system?
I'm aware of it. I've never owned it, but I know that that's. I'm told that that's even more inscrutable.
Yeah, a friend of mine, well, he wasn't a friend. A loathsome creature I knew in high school wanted me to play Hero like really badly, and I remember like he let me see the book for a couple days, and I was like, I'm not doing this. I was like, I'm not, and I'm not doing it.
I have been interested. I got the PDF for a game called Prowlers and Paragons, and I kind of do like it, even though, from what I understand, the creator is an insufferable shitlib. But
yeah,
I do find it more easy to understand, and it seems like it would be easier to run. So if I ever, when at some point I'll get a game off the ground. My thought right now is that's what I would use, unless I can find something better.
Yeah.
And I know there's many different games or systems that have add-ons or are, at least claim to be compatible with that genre. I know BRP, and even Mithras, I think, has a Supers setting, or there's D20 versions. Cypher System has rules for Supers stuff. Genesis as well, but certainly for like a BRP game, I think would be completely the mechanics would clash so much with the tone. It would be like the last system I would run for a Supers game.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard some people have recommended the DC Comic RPG. I've never picked it up or seen it. Yeah. So definitely, like this discussion brought about, not entirely, but largely from, this increase in OSR videos and content and commentary. It's gotten me thinking a lot more about genre in role-playing games and how best, what system, how long of a campaign or a chronicle, how would you best implement, and what are the what's the physics, what's the laws by which these different genres operate under to bring it about best. A high fantasy D&D game has different implicit assumptions than a Western or a personal horror game or a noir or investigative type game, or a supers game, or whatever
or a sci-fi game, or like
sci-fi
anything.
Game. Yeah.
This is why I don't like systems that are. This is a general system for everything. This is the universal role-playing system. I don't like that because it never.
It can't work. It can't.
It can. It's not gonna. It doesn't. These genres are supported by different systems because those systems shape how that game plays out. And like if you're not thinking about genre when you're designing rules, you're kind of flattening everything to like a lowest common denominator. And I'm not saying like, it's stupid lowest common denominator gamers. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that it's like there's the flavors, I think, gone.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's why, again, you have D20 systems for literally everything. And technically speaking, can you do it? Well, yes.
Yeah.
But it's not, what makes the genre interesting is going to be, at best, I think, not, or for certain genres, at best, not addressed by the mechanics, and more likely, and at worst, actively in opposition to them. That's definitely a good recommendation, Chandra, the Serenity RPG. I have seen that. I don't have it. I'm not sure what rule system to use, but I've heard from a number of different people that is a really good, really what would you say? That game flows well. And certainly Serenity was a space western in many respects. So
yeah, mechanics should inform the feel of the game, and also mechanics should imply something about the setting. Yeah, I completely agree.
Agreed, 100%.
Yeah, the best games that I've played have that. I would say one exception to that, and this is just because I really don't like the mechanics in this game. Stalker RPG, which is phenomenal, super atmospheric, very deadly. It's one of these games that is primarily diceless mechanics. I think they do have an optional die mechanic rule in it, but if I were to run it again, I would definitely put a dice system into it. But it's they really do make a big difference in these games. This is also something that I hadn't really thought about, but Stalker is sort of like a dungeon crawl in a way, because it's very much a game of like exploration and serious environmental hazards at every turn.
Right.
Like you're not necessarily taking
the biggest mega dungeon.
Yeah, you're not necessarily taking your 10-foot pole or whatever with you, but it's it's such a good game. I just wish it had I wish it had some mechanics.
Yeah, or that's another thing. When you don't have the mechanics to support the tone of the genre, you're left kind of floundering, because you want to evoke a certain feel, but everything that you're doing as the GM, other than just straight describing, which you're going to do in any game, you're describing the scene. But anytime the GM and the players are actually interfacing with the world or engaging with the world, you're getting a different feel, right? So, yeah, definitely system does matter.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Yeah,
and your mechanics should fit in less than 15 pages. Yeah. Oh, yes. Man. Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing sets me off more or makes me more exhausted than seeing particularly a combat section that goes on page after page after page after page. Like, all right, I guess I'm just not going to run this.
This was one of the reasons one of the biggest issues that I had with Exalted 3rd Edition. That game has a lot of issues. It did some interesting stuff. Its combat mechanics are not super simple, but they were better and more interesting, in my opinion, than the previous editions. But then the character abilities are so extensive. Like the different powers you can get, it's something like 300 pages in this book. And so like when we created characters, and you get a bunch of these at the start, because like I said, you're one of these extraordinary, like, powerful demigods. When you start the game, like nobody could remember what any of their powers did, because there was too many and they were complicated rules. And so I was just like, fuck this. Like, God damn it.
Yeah. Yep.
I was like, you almost got there, and then you did this.
Yeah. We need to justify the large, they got a lot of money for their Kickstarter.
They got a lot of money for that one. I think it had to have been over $1 million. And then it took years to produce and actually deliver it. And then there was a few very, very good art pieces in that book, but the majority of it was garbage. Like really, really bad art, to the point where people were shrieking about it, and they had to like go back and redo some of it. And it still didn't turn out that great. So that was a big mixed bag. They did some really cool things with the setting. And then they released like 2 more books after that, I think. And it's just completely fallen off. It's a shame.
I am curious.
But that's like a 650 page manual for the game for one type of Exalted.
Yeah. Well, all of the Onyx Path Kickstarters were like that, and certainly the latter ones.
Yeah.
And it does make me wonder what is going to happen to Onyx Path, since they, I think the, what would you say, the gravy train is over with the $1 million plus re-releases of old products. They've done them all.
Well, they can't
nominally.
They've lost World of Dark. Like the old World of Darkness properties now are owned by Paradox. They've exhausted their 20th anniversary lines of everything. So now they have,
and they can't do anymore.
Yeah, and like they have the Chronicles of Darkness, which used to be called the New World of Darkness, but the licensing got all screwed up, and they had to kind of claw those away from White Wolf. And White Wolf also was kind of like, yeah, we don't want these, because they were not as never as popular as Vampire the Masquerade and whatnot, which I understand why. But I don't know. And they're like, I don't know. I went to the website the other day, and I think they had like an update for like Pugmire or something, which is the game where you play as like dogs and cats. I was like,
games, I
was like, this sucks.
Which it is. I wouldn't begrudge their passing, even if.
I wouldn't either. Well, that's the thing too, is that like
they are miserable people.
Yeah, they got like. I can't even say they got super woke. I mean, there was an element of that.
Were.
Yeah, there was an element of that.
It got more safe to be more super woke.
Yeah, exactly.
To be aggressively
and it got more. It started getting
woke.
more explicit in the game materials. Which was one of the reasons I was just like, I don't care about this anymore. Like, go away. I don't mind if mechanics take more than 15 pages, but they should be summarizable in less than 15 pages. It's often the examples and edge cases that inflates the page count. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I would agree with that. Core mechanics, I think, should not be super, should not be that complicated. But I do understand like edge cases and that sort of a thing. I ran into this mechanics issue breaking immersion in my DCC game. Way too many random charts to reference. That's the thing. It's like if the charts start getting in the way,
big thing I've worried about as well.
Right. That's where I'm kind of like, the second that I feel that that's an impediment to the flow of the game, I want to. It's like my instinct is to jettison that, because I've had games derailed in that way previously, and I really, really don't like that. But also at the same time, you can't do that entirely, and you can't get in the habit of doing that, because the second you forget any rule, you can't just be like, oh, we'll just move along and gloss over that, because then the game just becomes storytelling with nothing at risk, and it
it loops back on the same thing from a different direction.
The best games for me are always the ones where the players are super invested, we're all on the same page, blah blah blah, but everyone has read the fucking manual and they at least know the rules kind of backwards and forwards for the things that they do and are responsible for.
Yes.
It's always good when everybody knows the rules and it's not simply the game master.
Be the case.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's usually I'm the game master, and which I love doing. I actually prefer it to playing in most instances, but bringing new people in and having to introduce the rules, and it takes them a while to get up to speed. Which that's just part of it. I mean, people have to learn how to play for sure, but it's always much better if everybody is invested and knows beforehand.
Right, and someone who is invested, even a new player who is excited, engaged, and interested, will pick that stuff up faster. Usually, in my experience, and I'm not even going to say in my experience. This is just, if you think about it, it's, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's true. If someone taking a long time to either get up to speed, either mechanics wise, roleplay wise, etc. wise, 99 times out of 100, that's going to be because you have a shit player to a greater or lesser degree. They're not investing themselves, and they're just, being a burden on the rest of the group and on the flow of the group, just being entertained. If you have someone who wants to be here and wants to engage, they'll pick it up quickly. I'm
I mean, it's like you go through a couple
giving...
of rounds, or a couple of just rolls outside of combat. Like, people that will pick it up and understand, and that's the thing why I like simple core mechanics, because if you can do it a few times, you can generalize it to the rest of you can generalize to the rest of the game and be like, okay, I pretty much know how this works.
If you can function as an adult,
right,
and you have a job, you can do this.
Right, but if every action has a different type of rule, then it sucks, because there's you can't generalize there.
Yeah, the guy that memes the fifth wheel, definitely.
Yeah,
the fifth wheel that actively avoids getting any grease. Although you shouldn't spare grease on that squeaky wheel, you should just jettison the wheel.
Yeah.
But
S. Cherry says Savage Worlds combat wasn't complicated, but was very gamey. It was fun, but it did feel like a war game when I would run it.
Yeah, that's something I don't remember if it was you or me brought up, and I think something that bears looping back to at some point, maybe in another episode, the notion that certain aspects of the mechanics, enjoyment in mechanics or systems mastery, is fundamentally a different activity than actual role-playing, even though we, I think, falsely put it all under the banner of tabletop role-playing or the hobby or whatever. Someone who gets enjoyment in the moment or before play, strategizing their character from a mechanic standpoint, picking feats. I mean, the most egregious is using a battle mat, and I've specifically chosen feats, and I've statted out my character, and I've chosen my skills so that I can maneuver on the board to do this, to be the most efficacious. And the role play, they're two different things. So there's game systems that feel very gamey and are very gamey, and some people like them. They're engaging, but they're engaging as a game and not in character as the character in the scene. They're two different
It's
things.
Like you want the system to support the role play, and you want it's like you want a system that is going to support role play, and that is not always something that you end up with. Let's see, Weird Frontiers book is 900 pages. Oh my god. That's too much. What did you guys think of the latest World of Darkness edition, the latest Vampire? Well, there's two different things we can consider the latest World of Darkness, which I would say is we have the second editions of the Vampire the Requiem in World of Darkness games that I thought were phenomenal. Like, there was some serious problems with the first editions of those games, but the second editions, Onyx Path, knocked them out of the park, and I thought that they were evocative. Their mechanics were way better than the like Vampire Revised or even Vampire 20th edition, 20th Anniversary edition. The mechanics very much do support and encourage roleplay. I mean, there's like explicit things in there that like gaining experience is basically tied to resolving different conditions that you may acquire throughout the course of play. Elements of like you have basically goals and motivations that are explicit with your character, and steps taken towards achieving those things or shifting them. Though you get experience for those. I loved what they did with the concept of humanity. It didn't just. It was no longer just like
baseline Reddit morality.
Yeah, exactly. It was not Reddit morality. It changed it from like you're just becoming this debased evil person who
right.
like murders and everything like that, to when you're losing your humanity, you are becoming more inhuman and more like base and animalistic in a way.
You're forgetting what it was like to be. You're losing your connection to what it was to be alive.
Yeah, and
whether you were a vicious murderer or I don't know, a Boy Scout.
Right. This was also something that I thought was in Vampire, the humanity system, like they're kind of like sins for, having to roll your humanity, whether you're losing it or whatever.
Yeah.
Were so ridiculous because it was like someone with a humanity of 6,
humanity sucked in VTM.
Yeah, it was terrible, which was so much better when they introduced, Paths of Enlightenment.
The paths were so much cooler.
The paths were so much cooler. But the idea that like, I think even if you had like a humanity rating of 2 or 3 and you did like premeditated murder, that was like, you'd have to make you would, that was still a sin that would like lower that. Right. It's like at a 2 in humanity, I'm like, there are actual humans that do that.
Yeah. And I also, I have to
like
yeah. Again, it's like I have to brutally assault someone at least once every night.
Yeah. To live, like,
Yeah, to live.
Or to unlive, as they say.
Unlive. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the new
with
editions.
Regards to,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Your thought.
Okay. So this is so the new editions of Requiem and Chronicles of Darkness, as they had to rename it because of licensing issues. Those were fantastic. Like just awesome home runs. As for Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition, that's now made by White Wolf under Paradox, I don't know. I haven't played it. I know that you have. Yeah.
Yes. So I've run it several times. I played in one online game that was atrocious. That definitely will be featured on a future RPG horror story.
Yeah. Gaming Garmin Bosia.
Gaming Garmin Bosia for sure. So there are two things and kind of a third thing, which is partially a joke, that I really liked about 5th edition. I love the hunger mechanic. I think that fits so much better into what being a vampire with a beast is than having a gas tank full of blood points.
Yeah.
Having the hunger die and having one or more of the dice in your dice pool be hunger die, and depending upon how those what results those die indicate to your result, having a some sort of bestial effect, some effect of your beast, your hunger, your vampiric monstrosity, your inhumanity manifesting in the scene. Fantastic idea, love it, and that would be my preference to use that. I would use that in Requiem if I ran Requiem. I think it's so great.
Yeah.
I also love what they did in like the lore. I love what they did with Clan Tremere. I love that they broke up Clan Tremere, and into what was the most, you could certainly argue the strongest clan in the Camarilla, the most unified clan in the Camarilla, to a bunch of different sort of squabbling factions. Love that. And then something that some people don't like, but I do like, because it triggers the mega nerds, that huge parts of the meta plot have been jettisoned or retconned or implicitly abandoned. I never cared about the VTM meta plot. I don't care about Beckett or Lucida or any of those people. I cannot be bothered. And I do like that nerds online are angry at
that does always bring me joy
to the lore.
Yeah,
that does bring me joy. Their tears are my blood points.
Yeah,
for sure. So I do like that. I mean, I hate obviously the super Well, the capitulation. Let's put it that way. The capitulation to super wokeness. Actually, so for a number of years, I would run games at Gen Con for Onyx Path, and then for like the first 2 years, I think, of their existence, for White Wolf as well. And I talked to a lot of those people on the creative team for the new White Wolf, now who no longer are employed. For as much as I am sure that they are, shit-lib people, they, talking with them personally one-on-one, they actually did have a huge love and a passion to bring this, to bring vampire back from the dead, literally speaking.
Yeah.
And to see what these absolute monsters, these trash people online did, to make them completely rescind and rewrite the Camarilla source book for horseshit reasons about gays in Chechnya, is ridiculous. And getting them fired, basically, and sort of stalling, and possibly ultimately killing, in the medium to long term, Vampire the Masquerade before it even had a chance to get up to speed. That does absolutely infuriate me.
Yeah, fuck those people.
That the actual passion, love, hate, or be indifferent to the rules and the direction that they went, they definitely had a love for it and wanted to bring it back, and having these nerds bite the hand that feeds is fuck these people. So yeah. Part of me also does have an affinity for 5th edition just because of the senseless antagonism towards it from those, that sector.
Yeah.
But I do like that they hate that the meta plot was changed. They're getting,
the meta plot. That I mean, parts of it were cool to me when I got into VTM, but it always got in the way. It was always overshadowing everything, and that was one of the biggest advantages of Requiem, even in its very flawed first edition, was that it didn't have a meta plot. It was very much a sandbox environment. Yeah. Like, it was, here's a world to play in. Go make your stories. I very much preferred that. VTM's mechanics didn't support the intended feel of the game.
Very much so.
Yeah, I agree. Requiem, second edition, I think, is a much, much better implementation of the, it's still, the D10 dice pool system, but there's some very cool mechanics in that. And they fixed some of the interesting ideas that they had in first edition that were very poorly executed. They updated those in very cool ways in second. I still got that book. I got to take a look. I haven't looked at it in like 10 years. I've got a review actually of that book on this channel from way back when.
You do? Yeah. Blood and Smoke.
Yeah, when I looked much, much younger. And I've also got a review of Within the Ring of Fire, a couple of those books as well. And I think I mostly probably would still agree with what I said back then. Because I think that was a warts and all kind of review. Yeah.
I would like to do a retrospective of that line at some point with you, and probably some future video content.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Later on. Yeah, everyone's going woke, Shauner. And definitely, that is an amusing point.
World of Darkness was woke before woke. Yeah, I agree.
That's true.
That's why we were kind of saying, like, Onyx Path didn't really go woke. They just got a lot more comfortable.
They just achieved their
yeah.
They were able to say the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, exactly.
Louder and louder. Yeah. Yeah, RuneQuest, that kills me. I think all of the new RuneQuest material for the new RuneQuest role-playing in Glorantha, but it is unfortunate how it seems like the new Chaosium is going. I've heard some disturbing things about the direction and the people they have involved with the new Pendragon. I hope it's not true, but I fully
Oh
expect
God, can you imagine if they ruined like
there's got
Arthurian,
lady
chivalry?
knights are going to be lady knights are going to be in the art. I'm sure of it.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yes, please. If you have your own YouTube channels, post the links, and
definitely.
We'll go through the live chat after this and put them in the channel description and blast them out on the the post and whatnot. Please do that. Yeah, subscribe to each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Get the community going.
Yeah, Savage
or integrate
Worlds
us into the
is
existing
heading there.
community if there is one.
Yeah. And the Dr. Pepper,
Yeah. I'm
enthusiast, as I am as well.
Right. I am a Dr.
although
Pepper enjoyer, but it's mostly just because I didn't have time to cook and was like, just give me some fucking junk food.
Yeah. Well, I do prefer Mr. Pibb when I can get it.
What?
Which I can never get.
Because it's terrible. I prefer Mr. Pibb? What the? Oh my God.
Finally.
This project is over.
It's over. Channel done.
Yeah. Yeah, female knights in Pendragon would be terrible. That's actually this is another thing I like about Lion and Dragon is that it's when he says it's authentic medieval roleplay, it is, and it's like he addresses the views on sex at the time, and it doesn't mean you can't play female characters, and like he gives options for various ways in which you can have females in these roles, but it's like I like that, it is authentic.
Authentic, and there were many reasons why there weren't women knights or women mercenaries or foot soldiers for the king's army or whatever the case may be. It's
I like that you can only play humans, because that was also something that I was thinking about was like about this D&D game that I want to run in like a fantasy setting. I was like, I don't want it to be a big mix of different races. I was like, I think I'm just going to only allow people to be humans in this.
I mean, that's what makes sense, especially, I mean, and that's, what else are you going to choose if you're doing a real life or a real life adjacent with sort of a hint of magic or whatever. Right. There aren't elves and dwarves and tieflings and dragonborn and
especially having all of them in the same world.
All of them in the same world, all getting along.
And funny enough, that is one of the things about Within the Ring of Fire is that it is too many races. It's every race you can possibly imagine, but they all want to kill each other.
They all want to kill and eat each other.
Yeah, most of them, it's like their diets include list of other playable species. So there's like genocidal holy crusades regularly happening, and it's so this is not like everybody gets along. Like you can't just create a mixed bag party and have things go well. That was something I really liked about it, but it was also really divisive because it did make it hard in some ways to run certain games. If someone was like, I really want to play this, or I'm interested in playing this, it's like, okay, but we have like, you can't because my character wants to, get psychosexual pleasure out of eating you,
Can't tell if that in and of itself is that based or as woke as you can go. I don't know. The jury's out on that one.
Yeah.
Time will tell. Future historians will look back and be able to settle the score. From Software games. I just saw in a game store. I didn't look at it, but the Dark Souls game. And Dark Souls is a game I really like. Mm-hmm. Honestly, even I like it more for the ambiance and for the...
I was going to stop you. Justin Thor LP says, you want to be a female knight, you get 90% reduction in XP. No, you get 78% of the XP of the male knights is what you get.
The experience pay gap is real. And belligerently.
And there's
enforced.
it's a stained glass ceiling that you.
A stained glass.
Sorry, I didn't mean
yeah.
to interrupt you. I just had to.
No. But yeah, I like that for the aesthetics and the world. This is another thing. You're seeing more and more as creativity goes more and more bankrupt. You're seeing more franchised role-playing games being rolled off, and definitely, is it Modifius? Modifius, that's their bread and butter now. They're like the new Green Ronin. They only make licensed products, RPGs, and so they have like a Dishonored video game, role-playing game, and I don't remember who does the Dark Souls. Maybe it is Modifius. I don't know.
They did Game of Thrones as well, right? Green Ronin?
Green Ronin,
yeah.
I think, did.
Oh, yeah, not Modifius. Yeah.
A Song of Ice and Fire. But part of the appeal and part of the enjoyment and the tone of Dark Souls is that you are alone.
Yeah.
There's this lonely, melancholic, deadly feeling, and yeah, you can, there's nominally, there's the multiplayer, and you can bring in the, what are they called? Well, I don't know, you can summon people in, but it's a solo experience, and converting a solo experience to a party dynamic role-playing game seems nigh impossible to me. I don't know how you do that.
To preserve that same atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. I may have to flip through it and sort of just at least see on a surface level glance, at least, if that's
Well, Big Bad
if
Bar
that's even
RPG
addressed at all.
Already given us the answer here. I heard the Dark Souls TTRPG sucked. Sounds
well,
about right. Yeah.
Sounds about right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a license house. That is what Free League and Modifius are. I can't remember if Modifius has the new One Ring, the new edition of One Ring, because I think they switched licenses, and of course the new One Ring RPG, quite woke from what I understand.
Yeah.
And completely, what would you say?
Cringe.
Well, cringe and sort of spiteful of the source material.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, small maximum party of 3.
Western version of Dark Souls RPG is a 5e clone. Isn't Dark Souls like just absurdly lethal? How's that going to work with 5e?
Big draw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
I mean, Dark Souls, I mean, like, if you're going to run that, it feels like you would want to do like an OSR style, like lethal system.
Yeah, an OSR style. Or a, OSR would perhaps work, but yeah, it's
just a more lethal system than 5e.
Yeah, but again,
and it's not like I don't think it would be hard to make 5e more lethal. I think this is the thing I don't understand, because it's like I have never had a problem pitting difficult challenges against players, because it's like you can always make the enemy more powerful.
That is true.
It's like a lack of creativity.
It is that, but there's also it's also frustrating, and let's say I want to make this encounter harder, so I'm going to really quickly. I'm going to just double the damage and triple the hit points and their attack modifier. So they're just going to destroy, and they're going to be a sponge of damage. But what still is frustrating, and you can still kill characters with it or make it more deadly. You want to up the drama perhaps, but
yeah,
there's still the frustrating thing where it's, You want risk, but it's also frustrating when it's like it seems like so many classes have these abilities built in where it's like, okay, you do the thing, but I'm going to make you, the monster, re-roll and take the worst result. I'm also I actually get I get another save against this thing. So the effect, I'm sort of like blocking in the moment, in the scene, this dramatic or dangerous or deadly thing which happens. Even if you are still able to get one over on them or still make it a threat, it's very frustrating, and it leaves a bad taste having these sort of like you slam the brakes on the action and on the the tension by having these sort of stop gaps that are there specifically to protect players. It's like you have shock absorbers on the drama, which is irritating. But you can do it.
Yeah.
You certainly can do it, but it still is frustrating that those things are there, and I would want to remove those shock absorbers entirely.
Yeah. Here's how you make 5e lethal from what I hear. Cut all your character hit points in half without lowering the damage output from any of the enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You have to get your players on board with that. But again, at that point,
and that's another thing.
But it's like also if my players are on board with that, it's like let's just play a different game,
Let's just play a different game where we don't have to make these changes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't every game past X amount of years just 5e with extra rules? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, likely. I don't.
If you make long rest a week, short rest 8 hours, you already solved a lot of issues with 5e. Yeah, that is true.
Right. Yeah, these are video game conventions.
Yeah, this idea that you rest 8 hours and you're just like, oh, well, I guess all my wounds closed up and I'm fine.
I remember, this is also something we're going to have to revisit. I will regale in longer detail, but I remember I was in a 5th edition game, and I get so much shit from the other players. There was a combat. I think we were fighting a fire elemental or something. And it was described, I was in melee combat, and at some point this elemental occupied the same space, and he's a battle mat term. It engulfed me, and this is for like a long time.
Yeah.
Half a minute of or maybe not that long, but it was a long time. Several combat rounds. I'm going to sell for that. You can't take a nap and have 3rd plus degree burns down to the muscle.
Yeah.
Like that shit doesn't go away after a power nap.
It's like everyone is Wolverine.
Yeah, exactly. My healing factor kicks in, and I'm back to full. And I got so much shit for describing my character as still being,
cooked,
belabored and fucked, and describing in detail the damage and the brutal damage that had been taken. Burn injuries are not, they're not fun. They don't, they're you will die. You will die. Certainly in a pre, what would you say, industrialized world without magic. You can't treat wounds if 30% of your skin is gone. Or whatever, They
didn't invent,
but
D-ball at that point, so you're going to be on the diet of 27 eggs a day or whatever it is to get your skin back.
Yeah.
Assuming you're not already based and eating 27 eggs a day anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That is the only way you'll get better.
Yeah. Never play 5th edition
just
of any
power through
RPG. These games all peak around 2nd edition. Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, like the endless. I mean, it's like Warhammer now. 40K. It's on 10th edition is coming out, and at this point, it's like, why? Why do you need a new edition other than to sell product? That makes sense.
Sell product, yeah.
But that's another one where they're like, I saw an article recently, and I doubt that this is actually the case because the 40K fan base is generally pretty based and awesome, and it hasn't gone woke yet from what I understand. But they were like, 40K now seems more inviting and a little less inviting to Nazis, and it was just like,
Jesus Christ.
I very much doubt that they've turned down any of the grimdark humor. Like, that's the appeal of the game. And if they did, it's going to fucking die. Or people will just use the previous editions because they have all the minis already. It's not like, okay, all your minis melted now.
Right.
It's the same
they could
thing
do
with
that.
role-playing games. Like, as long as the books exist, you can still play any previous edition.
That'll be 6th edition or 7th edition. They're going to have like those anti-theft ink packets, and after a certain after there's a button, it just detonates, and your books are ruined.
Your books are ruined. Yeah.
Your books are ruined. Your PDF files are corrupted because they're saved on the external WotC cloud. Yeah, there's.
I dropped out.
I mean, that is what they want.
Yeah, basically. I dropped out of D&D around the beginning of 2nd edition. Whenever Dark Sun came out, didn't see any reason to play it. Yeah, that's when I started. Just because I'm I'm on the older side of millennial, but that was what was in the house. I always thought Dark Sun looked really cool. I played one of the old, it was probably a DOS or early Windows games for it. That was pretty fun at the time. But going back and like learning more about, because I didn't know anything about 1st edition for a long time, and I never really went back and looked at it, because now that we're at like 5th edition, it's like I have been around for most of the life cycle of the game.
Right.
But I didn't realize how much of kind of a whitewashing 2nd edition was of original D&D, and how much they stripped out sort of the weirdness and the they got rid of demons and devils and had to rename them because of the Satanic Panic, and they very much like made it a safer product image wise. And the weirdness is now what is I find very attractive about the OSR stuff.
Yeah, I am interested in taking the plunge and giving different the earlier editions more of a shot, because we're basically the same age.
Yeah,
I didn't get started until the very late 2000s with Pathfinder, 1st edition. So a very different style of play, different company than 2nd edition. And it isn't until very recently, really like a couple years ago, that had any sort of experience whatsoever other than reading about it online, even 2nd edition or earlier. I backed yesterday or the day before, I backed the new Sword and Wizardry book, mainly because I saw the writer, I don't remember what his name is, Matt or Mark or something, Finch or something, I don't know. But I saw he had a very interesting and reasoned take on the OGL crisis. The video was from like a month or two ago or something, when that was in the cycle,
when that was current conversation.
That was current conversation. I think that's the only video on his YouTube channel, but interesting. You know what? Let me. And I remembered, or I was reminded, that I apparently backed the Dying Earth DCC Kickstarter like a year or 2 years ago. Like, all right, I may as well. It was dirt cheap. It was like $35 for like the deluxe print version. Like, okay, let me give this a shot. And I think that's think Sword and Wizardry is a retro clone of First Edition or BX. I don't recall off the top of my head. But not something that I have really any experience with to talk about. So
they're promising to strip back the bloat. That's what 10th edition is for Warhammer 40K. And followed up by don't ask questions, consume product, get excited for next product.
Yes, that
it's
is
good
the,
product.
It's good product. It's new product.
Yeah.
New product is good product. That is the that definitely is the catechism of
WotC.
of WotC and
just the greater
JSG.
It's the greater like nerd culture, like lifestyle brand
It is
bullshit.
Yeah,
that's what's happened with Star Wars and just everything.
Yeah,
all of the creativity has been kind of exhausted from this. They've squeezed all of the blood from the stone that they can.
It's only nerd culture only exists as a wider cultural appeal because of the epidemic, the overwhelming prominence of weak men. So weak men can't live in the real world and can't achieve anything, and the only thing that's left is to pine for a time in their lives when they didn't have responsibilities or an expectation to, do anything. And so that's, as long as that's the case, which unfortunately I don't see changing anytime soon, there will still be a nerd culture.
This is we had been talking about this recently because we were talking about like what's the direction of the RPG industry. Because like you do have all these incredible like indie products coming out, and sometimes they do Kickstarters and you get great print editions. Now there's print on demand, but Wizards of the Coast is moving in the direction of it being this digital service that you pay for. And it's not just that this is like, cynical corporation, just trying to milk everyone for everything. It's that it's like fewer and fewer physical books are being sold every year. I don't think that that's going to go to zero ever. But this thing with Wizards is they're finding ways to continue making money off of these old intellectual properties. They haven't come up with a new idea in like 20 years. It's like everything is like, oh, we're bringing back Vecna again. We're bringing back Ravenloft again. We're bringing back Planescape now. Like, which is gonna it makes me sad. It makes me sad because I like Planescape. I'm sure it's gonna be so
home of
bad.
The woke, the most.
It's gonna be the most
Sigil is
woke.
the inclusive. Yeah, exactly. We were joking.
We were talking about this
the other day. Yeah,
like Planescape's gonna be like, because it was just like all of the weirdness and everything, but now it's gonna be like, bring your weirdness to the game. Oh God, it's gonna be horrible. But like with putting like the 5th edition into Creative Commons, they're while they're putting the rule set in, they're removing all these references to the previous editions to their protected IPs. So like specific monsters like Beholders, Vecna, these sorts of big IP things. They don't want those getting out there. And it's like, what have they made that's new? It's been like 50 years. Like they're not coming out with new settings. They're not coming out with like new characters. Sure, they make new
Although Max
adventures.
is right. He brings up a point. They have come up with new ideas. Strixhaven and Radiance.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe you know what? I'm going to close my mouth because I don't want them to come up with any new ideas. We don't need more Strixhavens.
But I think even Strixhaven isn't that. Maybe this was a nightmare that I had. I don't know. I thought I thought I heard that Strixhaven is actually from like a Magic the Gathering setting or from like a different. It's an actual college or something that's in an existing IP
I couldn't
that
tell
they
you.
have. I don't know, and I don't want to know.
It's like
it doesn't make it better.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh God, I can't. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that it does beg the question, because clearly what Wizards wants to do, and they tried to do this with 4th edition to a much to no real success at all. They want to be able to monetize their products. They want to navigate over to a subscription-based model, and ultimately what they want to do is have Dungeons and Dragons be primarily a multimedia, primarily a video game enterprise. Even though they already have several video games which are good, like the old Baldur's Gates, but
I think the new Baldur's Gate looks pretty good so far.
I purposely haven't paid any attention to it because I know it's been in early access for like years now. I will look into it when it actually releases, which I think is supposed to be this year.
Yeah, I think it's relatively soon. But we were talking about
the D&D Beyond thing.
Yeah, like we were talking about the other day, like the virtual tabletop that they've shown and whatnot is clearly they want to get people out of Roll20. Roll20 is now owned by whoever owns DriveThruRPG, their parent company. So they're merging, and they've got like integrations with Roll20 or with DriveThru now. And there is on DriveThruRPG something called the DM's Guild, which is different than D&D Beyond or whatever. I'm almost positive that that's going to get removed from DriveThru at some point, and it's going to be this one D&D product that you have. But this virtual tabletop that they've made, it is more than other virtual tabletops do, but it is less than a video game. And so it looks terrible. And
it does look terrible.
The thing is, like, you used to be able to use Neverwinter Nights to run D&D games, and it would automate all your rolls for you and everything like that, but you could have a dungeon master running an adventure, 4-player characters, multiplayer in Neverwinter Nights. And it's like, why not just make this a video game if that's the case? That is a tool set to be a virtual tabletop, but that's better, than like they showed the animations of the combat where it's like literally like one of the minis tips over and hits the other one. I was like, this is terrible. Like people who use minis don't even do that. It's like, this is really
right. Yeah. But it's more cost effective. You don't have to animate or have any,
you don't have to rig up all these different models, and people are going to be able to bring their custom models in, their minis, and I'm sure they'll sell them on the marketplace, and Wizards will get a cut, and like I get the business model, but it's definitely
but will
moving.
It work is the question,
Yeah, this is the thing. I don't know. Because there's part of this OGL crisis, I feel really pissed off a lot of their players. It got people interested, at least temporarily, in other games and other systems. You've got companies that were making 5th edition products, basically 5e compatible things, that now are not going to be doing that. So is this going to kind of, like, D&D is its own worst enemy and kind of always has been in the market. Is this another case of them being their worst enemy, where this is going to make other better products more viable, or does the new gamer just go along with it and go along with the Wizards product?
I think the answer is that the new gamer does go along with this, because ultimately this is what they want as well. Most of the people who claim to play D&D now, and the people who care
filthy casuals.
They are filthy casuals, and they are filthy. Capital F filthy.
Yeah.
These people who tune in to Critical Role, they're ultimately video game players. They're not tabletop role-playing game players. So they do want this.
The
so
rainbow
there won't be any.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, definitely.
And you're right, Max. They are just going to ruin it, and people should not be excited for old IPs coming back from Wizards. It's
not
it's
the
a
thing
tragedy
you remember.
when they
it's like Animal Farm. Sometimes dead is better.
No, not Animal Farm. You're thinking Pet Cemetery. Animal Farm.
Pet Cemetery. Whatever.
Yeah.
They're both dystopias.
Back there. You don't want to go back there.
Yeah. So there won't be any backlash from the new gamer. My only my only thought as to what might shoot them even more in the foot is if Wizards tries, as has been their playbook in the past, to go for complete control. No one else is allowed sort of within the gated walls. If they close off this environment to third-party creators, either to have licensed third-party material be incorporated into digitized stat blocks, or what however this is going to work. If they sort of turn their nose at all the third-party creators, Wizards of the Coast with 5th edition, they have not been coming out with many adventure modules. It's been very few and far between. And new gamers have no creativity and don't want to and can't come up with a story of their own. They want to replay Curse of Strahd again. They want to go through the Strixhaven adventure path again. Whatever the case may be. Wizards, I don't think, is going to be able to have enough material to keep the new gamers entertained for very long if they keep third-party creators out, which I think is going to be their inclination because they want all of the revenue, or as much of the revenue as they can.
Right.
So I don't know.
Max says, I'm a veteran from the video game industry, and doing a VTT with Unreal is so basic. You have none of the real challenge and time-consuming part of video game development. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm actually surprised that no one has done a better VTT until now.
I know.
Because like Roll20 and all they're all bad, and you do have tools like Unreal Engine. It doesn't seem like it would be that difficult to make something. Like obviously supporting every system, maybe there's some extra work there. Obviously there's extra work. I do software as well. Nothing's ever as easy as it seems. But it is kind of mind-boggling to me that this hasn't been done. Hasn't been done well yet.
I mean,
and that it took Wizards of the Coast this long to do it. They have so much money. This is something that conceivably, if they were run by intelligent people who wanted to make money instead of just promote a message, they would have done something like this a while ago.
Yeah.
Cosplayers looking for more nerd
probably
simps.
Is a Chinese RPG.
Isn't there a Chinese RPG that can crush D&D over here? I don't know.
Wouldn't surprise me.
There is a Tailspire that is 3D. Man, this text is so small. I don't know how to change it. I'm such a boomer.
I haven't heard of that.
I haven't heard of that either. But the thing is, I'm not the target for a VTT anyway. I want basically like something. I need Zoom basically to
Google Hangouts was the best virtual tabletop to ever come out. You were able to put your name at the bottom and you were able to show the dice results, and that's all I needed from a VTT.
Exactly.
And they got rid of it.
They killed the plugins so you couldn't do the dice rolling and everything. It was so annoying.
So stupid. Yeah. But I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens. Although, I think I was making the case to you the other day. Whether because Wizards either succeeds and basically divorces itself completely and only pays the barest lip service to actual role playing, because they won and they have all their cash cows playing video games with them, or because nerd culture loses its mainstream appeal finally and it becomes passé or lame again, which I don't think is likely to happen in the short term, or possibly even the medium term. If either one of those things happens, I think
it could happen, but you're right, it's going to take a while. I mean,
it could take a while.
It could take a generation, because here's why. Because the Zoomers are very much aware of how cringe the millennials are about Harry Potter, and like, oh, my Harry, I'm a Hufflepuff, you know, like they rightfully roast millennials over that shit. Millennials are going to be around for a long time, though.
That's true.
So there probably is going to be pushback against this. Yeah. At some point, though, yeah. I can't imagine all of this staying cool and trendy forever. But to your point of their kind of like milking these cash cows, it does look like they're pushing, again, like you said, for like multimedia brand. They have this movie coming out. Looks like it's going to underperform, possibly. We will be watching and reviewing that.
Yes.
And it sounds like they announced there's going to be a Dragonlance TV show that's mainly
There's no way that won't be terrible.
Probably, yeah. The guy, what's his name? It's like Joe Manganiello or something.
I know who this guy is.
Yeah. He's apparently.
I don't know what he's famous for, but I know.
I don't know what he is famous for either.
I don't know what he is.
It's like he runs D&D for. Yeah, he's an actor. He runs D&D for a bunch of celebrities like Vince Vaughn and guy who directed Guardians of the Galaxy.
Or so, I don't know. Yeah.
But that guy's going to do a Dragonlance TV show. So I think basically they're trying to capture. They're going to try and capture more people, new customers, bring them into. This is the way, and these products will be new to them. You know, these recycled IPs, these recycled adventures, and everything like that will be new to someone.
True.
But we're never going to get another creative, interesting campaign setting from them.
Yes.
Unless they decide to publish Transplanar RPG. Bring in some true indie creatives.
Well,
or if they just stole that idea and made like their version of it,
funny.
that would be so funny. That would be so funny.
And I would not put it past them. In fact, they might even be more likely than any other scenario. But I think.
Yeah, man, we're not even done with the boomers yet.
I know, right?
And that's the thing.
Good
People
God.
think that boomers are an expensive generation to pay for, and they're going to be what collapse our entitlements programs. Just wait until you got to pay for millennials, who are all in hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, have no wealth whatsoever. Yeah, it's not sustainable.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, can always get worse. Yeah, I don't know. But I do think the quicker that either Dungeons and Dragons fails as obviously D&D will be around forever, but if it fails as in its attempt to be like the new MCU or the new like truly ascendant nerd brand, millennial nerd chic brand, or that market collapses because nerddom is no longer profitable or interesting to the mainstream audience.
Mm-hmm.
Whichever way, the faster that Dungeons and Dragons becomes uncool again and becomes a niche hobby, the better. The better.
I completely agree.
Yes.
I completely agree. Because then you get people who are actually interested in interesting parts of the game and the game design. Those people are always going to be attracted to these products. Like, we're always going to have role players. We're always going to have people who are attracted to what I consider like the cooler side of this stuff. But the cooler side of this is not what is palatable to the mainstream, and is not, the faster that it can stop being palatable to them again is faster the better.
Agreed. And I think that's coming.
So basically, normies get out.
Normies out. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, as soon as Critical Role gets boring, or Matt Mercer steps away or whatever, that's...
Or someone gets accused of, like a Me Too or something.
Accused.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean...
How many people in Critical Role knew about this and didn't say anything?
Yeah. Yeah. Canceled. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on a lot, it's like a,
how long until people,
how
long until people look back at Critical Role and start talking about how it was problematic and...
Yeah, how it was problematic and, exactly. The implicit bias and the covered up hate crimes that were going on a daily basis. Yeah.
I think you
on
said
a long
recently,
enough timeline,
you said recently in 10 years, Strixhaven will be remembered as a work of white supremacy. That's how woke things will get. Yeah.
Yep. Back in the Dark Ages, when you couldn't change your alignment or your race on the fly in session. Yeah, when there was so much oppression, when you had to choose your race,
and your character was born that way.
Was born that way. Wow.
We won't have to pay for millennials. Our societies won't last that long. I think society will. Yeah. Our current governments won't last that long for sure.
We can only hope.
Yeah.
God, I hope so.
They will not. They will not continue in the form that they are now. Like, that's certain. A bunch of them will die from their Pfizer in a couple of years.
True.
Probably.
Yep.
Maybe.
Thankfully, a problem I do not need to worry about.
Yep. Me neither.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
Because we passed the IQ test.
Yes, the evolutionary bottleneck, we won.
Maybe all the Democrats will start playing Pogs again and go away. Mercer needs to start play Go. Like the game Go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The game Go.
I think it's more likely that D&D IP will become uncool, but the people who are already playing will spill off into other games. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. And that's what I'm wondering if some of that's going to happen right now with like what happened from the fallout of the OGL stuff. Because I mean, they even pissed off like their sycophantic influencers, like they were the ones that were leading the boycott. And have since reneged on that, but I'm hoping that it does get some people interested in alternative products, in alternative game lines, because I know that there are players in 5e that know something, might subconsciously know that there's something better out there, but they're they just haven't been exposed to it. And I know that there's some good gamers in there that could come and play over here.
Yeah. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to save them from the Titanic here. Only the good people.
Yeah.
The rest.
But that's the thing though, is that there is a level of like, there is kind of a built-in defense in older game systems, is that they are old product. People don't want old product, and they don't want things that are popular, necessarily weird or maybe a little bit more difficult to get into. And that's also why we need to gatekeep, which I'm fine with doing. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Just as we know from San Francisco.
Yeah.
And Portland, Oregon, and all of these shithole places. Barrier to entry is not only beneficial to the health, it is a requisite for the health of any community.
28mm RPG says, it's why we need to go back to theater of the mind. No minis, no maps. The new gen will fall out as they are tactile. Need their minis, maps, and clutter. Well, some of us don't need to go back to theater of the mind because some of us just never played minis.
Some of us never left.
Yeah.
That's right.
Stay away from players that lived on Happy Meal toys. Yeah.
I like that. Yep.
An RPG where all combats are resolved with games of Go.
The true autist game.
Yeah. The final boss though is the super AI that you cannot defeat.
Right.
That's been trained upon multiple previous versions of itself.
Yes. Hell yeah. Well, Matt, I think we're coming up.
Yeah, it's been about 2 hours
on that time.
Yeah, I'm about ready to call it a night. But this was super fun hanging out.
Yeah, hopefully you guys all enjoyed it as well. Great to see some new faces.
Yeah.
Old faces as well. Names, as the case may be. So, yeah, and for anyone, certainly for our benefit, but for everyone else's benefit, anyone who has like a YouTube channel or has some content that they've made,
if you make
publications or whatever,
games
or on the
or have a
horizon,
blog, whatever.
Yeah, like that's awesome.
Yeah, comment it on the video. That would be great.
Comment it, yeah.
That way, other people who are maybe watching this later can see your stuff. But we'll try to if you put your stuff where we can find it, we will put it in the video description, blast it out in a post. Very happy to have all you guys here.
Yeah, for sure. And the more people doing creative stuff and engaging in the conversation.
Yeah, we want to find cool shit. All right, so if you make some cool shit, show it to us.
Yes. Hell yes.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Good hanging out with you too. We will see you guys next time. Oh yeah, next podcast Monday. It's gonna be funny.
Monday. Yes.
All right.
Good stuff. All right, you guys.
Have a good night.